kill him. If it's a girl, let him live. But because the midwives feared God, they refused to obey the king's order. They allowed the boys to live too. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives. Why have you done this, he demanded. Why have you allowed the boys to live? The Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women, the midwife replied. They are more vigorous and they have their babies so quickly that we cannot get there in time. So God was good to the midwife, and the Israelites continued to multiply, growing more and more powerful. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: throw every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River, but you may let the girls live. I have read for you Exodus, the 1st chapter, the 15th through the 22nd verse. May the Lord add a reading to his already blessed word. At this time, before we go into the word, I'm going to ask that we would have our corporate prayer. I'm just, as Josh had already told me, I'm probably going to be switching around. I'm going where the Lord leads me, and as he leads me, that's all I can do. And he warned me of that, and I said, no, I got it. I do have it. But it's at this time that we need to pray for our sick and shut-in of our church. Brother Clark and Ms. Moore and Ms. McLaurin. There may be others. We need to continue to pray for our churches everywhere. We need to pray for this world. Please, Lord, pray for your president. Lying is a sin. I don't know if he knows that or not, but there's no little sin and no big sin. Sin is sin. You know, national TV and lie. I don't know what you call that, but thank God that he gives us common sense. Thank God he allows us to be able to read things for ourselves and to weigh out what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. We need to pray for this coronavirus, or COVID-19, either one you want to call it, because it's rapidly growing. And they are trying to get a handle on it, but you know, God is still in control.
Yes, sir.
God can move mountains.
Yes.
He can do anything but fail. But you gotta trust him.
That's right.
That's the key right there. You gotta trust him. You gotta take him at his word. And you gotta trust him that he will do anything but fail. And you know, we all going through some things. Work.
Yes.
Some people are not going to be working next week. This one might be one of them. The teachers going to be out. They don't know if they're going to get paid. Y'all getting paid, but praise the Lord on that. Because bills still got to be paid.
That's right.
They can do all the planning they want to. That's not. When they say you got an outstanding electric or gas bill, they're not going to cut you off. That's what I heard that yesterday.
Yeah.
Call and check on it. Don't say Pastor said it and be in the dark. Call and check. But that's the word.
That's
that, you know, any outstanding bills that you might have that has to be paid right now, they're going to waive it. You know, we don't have no pay it, but you know, they understand what's going on. A lot of people are going to be out of work.
Yeah.
Restaurants, people not going to be eating out like they used to.
Yeah.
I was cut there.
You know, and I hate that part. I don't need no harm. But it's going to be a lot of people out of work. Kids out of school.
Yeah.
Parents got to find out what to do with them.
Yeah.
Then they got to get food for them. No food in the grocery store.
Yeah.
If I hear another person tell me they couldn't find no toilet paper and no paper towels. I mean, I've seen it. But, you know, people are panicking.
Yeah.
They are panicking. And for good reason, so to speak. I mean, we're dealing with the know, we're dealing with something we know nothing about. My mom said she's 83 and she's never seen anything quite like this. We've had the NH1, we've had the swine flu, we had the Ebola. We've never had anything impact country after country after country after country. But what did God tell us in His Word? Read Revelations. He done told you what's going to happen. So it behooves us to be ready for whatever the unknown is. Because God will take care of us.
That's right.
For He told us that He would. So we got to trust Him on this morning. So as we prepare to go to the Lord in prayer, any other persons that want to join us at the altar, you might want to come just to pray for yourself or your family. You might want to stand in the gap for somebody else. You might just want to come and tell the Lord, thank you for allowing me to see another day. You know, whatever it may be. One thing I know, my God is able. Lord, I thank you that He's able. He's able right now, Lord, to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ever ask or want. But Lord, we bow right now just to tell you, thank you, Lord. Lord, we thank you right now for allowing our golden moments just to roll on a little while longer. Lord, we thank you right now that when we lay down to rest, Lord, that you didn't make our bed our cooling board, Lord. But Lord, that as I stand and proclaim your word, Lord, that it'll be all about you and not about me. Lord, I ask right now that you continue to hide me from the Satan, behind the Satan desk. Lord, I ask right now that you would touch the hearts and the minds and the ears of those to receive your word, Lord. Lord, that the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart, be accepted in my sight. For I thank, Lord, that you are my strength and that you are my redeemer. It's in your son Jesus' name I pray. Amen and amen. After the scripture, heard from Exodus, the first chapter, the 15th to the 22nd verse, if I were to add a title to that scripture, it would be Women Who Changed the World. Women Who Changed the World. March is designed for Women's History Month by presidential proclamation. The month is set aside to honor women's contribution in American history. The National Women's History Alliance selects and publishes the yearly theme. The 2020 Women's History Month theme is Valiant Women of the Vote. The theme honors the brave women who fought to win suffrage rights for women and for the women who continue to fight for the voting rights of others. In 1851, at a Women's Rights Convention held in Akron, Ohio, at the Old Stone Church, Sojourner Truth delivered what is now recognized as one of the most famous abolitionist and women's rights speeches in American history. Ain't I a woman? And it says, well, children, where there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women of the North all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talking about? The man over there says that women need to be helped in the carriages and lifted over at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children, and seen most of all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? God. Then they talk about this thing in the head. What they call it? What they call intellect. That's it, honey. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint and yours hold a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? Then that little man in black there, he says women can't have much rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Well, where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From a God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up. And now they've asked her to do it. The men better let them. And these were the words of Sojourner Truth. And she continued to speak out for the rights of African Americans and women during and after the Civil War. But whenever women appear in our scriptures, they are often extras in the story. Sometimes they have supporting roles, but rarely are they the stars. Like extras in a movie, they are the topic of discussion, but they are often in the background. We find in the Bible that the culture is dominated by men. Of the primary concern are males. The storylines revolve around men, and even when women appear in the story, they are most often presented from a male perspective. It cannot be denied that the Bible is primarily a male production. This is not just true in the Bible, but it's true in our society. Men still run the world. Despite significant strides made by women over years, women often lag behind their male counterparts in most arenas of leadership and certainly in conversation. But James Brown put it this way. He said it's a man's world. But then Brown went on to say, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl. In the story of Shipha and Purah, their story is found in the book of Exodus, a book that is primarily dominated by male characters, men like Moses and Pharaoh and Aaron and Joshua. But ironically, there would be no Exodus from Egypt without the actions of 5 women. Jochebed, Moses' mother; Miriam, Moses' sister; Bethsaida, Pharaoh's daughter, all who aspired to save the life of Moses, the future liberator. But before Moses' mother and before Miriam and before Pharaoh's daughter, there were 2 midwives, Shipha and Purah. They were marginal and peripheral characters. They were not persons of influence or affluence. They had no impressive pedigree. They had no imperial political power. In fact, by most estimations, they were probably considered to be weak, impotent, and invisible. And yet, there would have been no exodus from Egypt had it not been for these 2 sisters. You see, Shipha and Purah had a decision to make. Their orders were very clear. All the baby boys from among the Hebrews had to die. Their orders were clear and succinct. The orders were murder. Pharaoh had said so. I just read the text. Any boy born to Hebrew mother was to be put to death right there on the birthing scene before the male child could be lost to genocide. Pharaoh attempted to enlist these women to commit infanticide, which was the instant killing of infants. It is a defining moment in history. A change in the political structure has taken place, and a new administration did not know Joseph or his brothers is in charge. The Pharaoh had no commitment or loyalty to the prior agreements made by the predecessor. He cares nothing about Operation Grain Save that Joseph was instrumental in creating and administrating privileges granted by previous administration. No longer exists. Does that sound familiar? It's always whose fault? Obama's fault. Anything happening in our world today is Obama's fault. Nobody said anything about the office that was already put in place to handle pandemics and handle situations like this that your president got rid of. That was already there. He said we didn't need it. They can't hang out at City Hall like they used to. They are no longer on first-name basis with staff. They can't make phone calls or even go to lunch. Privileges have been forfeited or withdrawn. But nevertheless, this small favorite nation of Hebrews is poised for liberation. Although they are slaves, they have preferred status because they have been chosen by God to receive the promise of God. But this favored status makes them a threat to the empire. Although these people have done nothing wrong and there is no obvious indication of conspiracy, their growth in number causes fear, worry, paranoia in the heart of the king. The threat of the loss of control causes him to speculate and to make moves and imagine what life would be like if these Hebrew boys grew up to be strong and rise up against us. In reality, he anticipates a potential exodus of a cheap labor source. You know, when you really track the cable beneath a lot of this stuff at the end of the day, money is always in it some way. So out of his anxiety, he generates a fresh policy of forced labor. He commands were bought with Hebrews bending over bricks for building and bending over fields for planting. Bent backs were intended to decrease the expanding number of Hebrews, but the plan backfired. Despite the forced labor, despite the unreasonable expectation to make bricks without straw, with no wages, no benefits, the Hebrews continue to multiply. So it's an amazing thing how the thing that was intended to break you will often make you. It's amazing things how they vary. The things that intend to take you out often give you strength to overcome. The plan didn't work. The policy failed. But Pharaoh would not be defeated. He enlisted the aid of Shipra and Peril, ordinary women, midwives, extras in the larger scheme in the background. Midwives to be seen and heard. It was their job to follow orders. They weren't to be seen and heard. It was a job to deliver babies. But Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, wanted them to kill the baby boys because he feared them. He did what most fearful and insecure leaders often do. He created policies to oppress them. And he created an enemy when there was really no enemies that existed. He stirred up his imagination and the paranoia and found himself creating policies to oppress the Hebrews when there was no need to oppress them. We often observe that the oppressor fears the oppressed. The question that is always on the mind of the oppressor is what would the oppressed do if they became too many and have access to power? What will the rich do if the poor keep asking for more? What will the women do if we release them and allow them to share in leadership? What will women do if we really give them the right to vote? What will blacks do if we could really allow them to share in the wealth of the country? What will immigrants do if we grant them the privileges of citizenship? The oppressor tends to fear the oppressed. So Pharaoh issues an order, and he says to the midwife, when you help the Hebrew women in childbirth and observe them on the delivery stool, if it's a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. But the text says that the midwives feared God. The Hebrew word translates to mean they reverenced God. They had a holy respect for God. They stood in awe of God. And because they reverenced God, they did not do as the king commanded them. But they let the boys lead. The Message Bible translation says, but the midwives had far too much respect for God and didn't do what the king of Egypt ordered. In other words, in the final analysis, the midwives worked for God and not just for Pharaoh. And when you work for God, there are certain things that you just can't do. When you work for God, I said there's certain things you just can't do. When you work for God, there's certain games that you just can't play. Shipra and Purah didn't just work for Pharaoh, but they worked for God. And so in essence, they told Pharaoh no. They said no to evil. They chose liberation over capitalism. They sought vengeance over violence. They exercised discipline over destruction, and their actions put them at great risk. Pharaoh was the most powerful man in the empire and had shown a willingness to kill whoever got in his way. This is Pharaoh that we're talking about. Pharaoh could do whatever he wanted to do. Pharaoh built pyramids. He controlled the known world. He enslaved people. Pharaoh's the one that wrote the policy to enslave the Hebrews. He was rich beyond imagination. Pharaoh was like a god. People bowed down to the king. They did what the king said. People feared the king of Egypt. What the midwife? They feared God. They had too much respect for God. And their act of defiance is perhaps the first recorded act of civil disobedience. These two sisters, who are background characters, meant to be extras in the story, put themselves at great risk and disobeyed Pharaoh's order because his authority was in direct contradiction with God's moral authority. And so for these women, I don't cut the thing off. Okay. It'll come back. Hold on. Here we go. I had to open up the Bible and go from there.
There you go.
That's where it all came from.
Amen.
But these women, even though it meant getting fired, even though it could have meant being demoted, even though it could have meant going to the house, it amounted to irreconcilable differences and at great risk. They claimed their moral authority. When Pharaoh confronted them, they expressed to him what is true about the women, while calling out his privilege and prejudice. They said the Hebrew women are more vigorous and strong. You know who the Hebrew women are, right?
All right.
They gave birth before the midwives arrived. They didn't need no midwives. They were able to do it by themselves. So even though they put their actions at risk, Shipra and Pharaoh were in with their God-given vocation. Pharaoh didn't understand what he was asking these women to do because he was operating out of any imagined threat to Egyptian national security and self-preservation. But the midwives were operating out of a moral commitment. They remained true to the vocation of their calling. They understood that their calling was to be midwives rather than be pallbearers. They understood their primary vocation was to assist in bringing life rather than death. Scholars tell us that midwives in Israel were barren women in a culture where having children and family was the ordinary way to build a life. It was the way to gain respect and to know the blessings of God. These possibly barren women, somewhat marginal women, found their place in the community by helping other women and bringing forth new life. Their daily work, their daily routine, what they woke up to do in the morning was to help bring new life into the world. And it was that not what midwives do. They don't just stand by on the sidelines, but midwives, they show up, they attend, they listen, they encourage, they coach, and they stay as long as they are needed. They roll up their sleeves and they get involved in bringing forth new life into the world. And when they do, they are exposed to all sorts of things. Stillbirths, painful births, poverty, pain, cruelty, suffering, compassion, joy, heroism. And I dare to say this morning that as we gather in this church, that we have the same opportunity. You see, you don't have to work in a delivery room to qualify to be a midwife. Right. You don't even have to go to medical school to be a midwife. You don't have to necessarily know nursing terms to be this kind of midwife. But when we act as a midwife, we step off the sidelines and we enter into the thick, the joy, and the pains of this world. When we see something happening that is unjust and we speak up, we're acting like a midwife. Every time we tutor a child, whenever we address literacy or help students qualify for college exams, we're acting like a midwife. When we mentor to our teenage boys and girls, we're acting like a midwife. When we host workshops and we address domestic violence, we're acting like a midwife. When we address hunger and HIV and AIDS, we're acting like a midwife. Whenever we address social injustice and inequality, voter information, voter fraud, and voter registration, we're acting like a midwife. When we hold up signs that say Black Lives Matter, we're acting like a midwife. When we assist the poor and the unrepresented, we provide access to food, clothing, shelter, and job opportunities, we're acting like a midwife. When we choose to speak up when others folks shut up, when we stand up and other folks sit down, we're acting like a midwife. When we take our voices to the street and we lift them up in protest, we're acting like a midwife. Whenever we look into the eyes of those who are considered expendable and we see a life worth saving, we're acting like a midwife. When we act as our brothers and sisters keepers, we're acting as a midwife. So thank God for history that reminds us that the midwives, the women who brought life to our lives, who brought life to women and men around the world. In times of racial, economic, and gender equality. Thank God for midwives. Thank God for freedom. Thank God for historically Black colleges and universities. We need to thank God for the National Council of Negro Women Incorporated. Thank God for the Congressional Caucus of Black Women and Girls. Thank God for the United to Save Humanity. Thank God for the Prince Hall Order of the Eastern Star. Thank God for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Thank God for the Civil Rights Movement. Thank God for Black sororities and other agencies. Thank God for the Women's Home and Overseas Missionary Society of our A.M.E Zion, A.M.E and C.M.E churches that are committed to the uplift of other human beings. Thank God for midwives who were called to political and social actions, to who pooled their collective strength to promote equality. Thank God for those who did not regard a robbery to help us when we couldn't help ourselves. For the songwriter said we've come this far by faith. And we've been leaning on the Lord. Oh, we've been trusting in His holy word. And He's never failed us yet. Or can't turn around. But we've come this far by faith. And you need to tell God, thank you for every midwife. You ought to tell Him, thank you for every coach, every teacher, every librarian, every cafeteria worker. You ought to tell Him, thank God for the midwives.
Yes, thank you.
You ought to thank God for the midwives who would not shut up, but who stepped up. Who would not keep silent in the face of oppression and suppression, but who marched in suffrage marches, who marched on state capitol, who marched on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Thank God for the midwives who marched in Memphis to bring dignity to the sanitation workers. Thank God for midwives who used their power to resist the advancement of evil, discrimination, and oppression. Thank God for midwives who possess an uncompromising commitment to participate in God's liberating work. And here's the reason why we ought to really thank God for midwives. It's because Pharaoh is not dead. I said ain't dead. You know right English. I said you need to tell somebody that Pharaoh ain't dead. You see, Pharaoh is just not a person. Pharaoh is an institution. Pharaoh is anybody and anything that stands in the way of your calling in Christ Jesus. And I got an announcement on the day that there are so many equations that compete to shape our behavior in a society as women and men, as professionals, and yes, even as scholars, pastors, and preachers, and people of faith. And if we are not careful, we can become vulnerable and complicit and susceptible to pressure that conforms us to our own values, to give into power that is used for destruction. If we're not careful, we will become complicit in living lives and denying our calling rather than being helpless because his power told us to do so. But when you fear God, you know he still works in mysterious ways.
Yes, sir.
You know what Grandma used to say? God works in mysterious ways.
He does.
He still works through the hands of midwives. We serve a God who still sees and hears the cries of those affected by voter suppression and voter intimidation. We serve a God who still sees and hears the cries of the marginalized and the oppressed. We serve a God who still hears the cries of disenfranchised women. We serve a God who still hears the cries of heartbroken mothers who grieve the loss of sons and daughters. We still serve a God who still hears the cries of the unemployed and the invisible. And we still believe that we serve a God who moves in mysterious ways, who works through the secretive ways of prostitutes like Rahab, who hid Jewish spies, the unexpected faithfulness of foreigners like Ruth, the riskiness and the courage of midwives. I need to tell somebody on the day that it is because of their courage that the entire narrative for a nation was changed. Because if the Hebrew midwives had not said no, Moses could have never said yes, and the Exodus story would have been different. Even though Moses and Isaac and Joshua and Caleb get top billing, the entire book of Exodus hinges on what the midwives did. So why don't you tell God, thank you for the midwives. Thank him for Shippa and Pure. Thank him for women like Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman. Thank him for Mary McLeod Bethune. Come on and thank him for Fannie Lou Hamer. Thank him for Rosa Parks. Thank him for women like Miriam and Esther of the Bible. But thank him for Betty Shabazz and Barbara Jordan and Shirley Chisholm. And thank him for Michelle Obama. You need to thank him for our grandmothers and our mothers, all those women who have poured into us over the years, over and over again. Do I have any shivers or peers in the house this morning?
Yes, yes.
These are the women who changed the world. They changed the world because they were not afraid to witness about the power of God that was operating in their lives. They changed the world because they were women who partnered together with help other women. But ultimately, they are women who changed the world because they were not afraid to stand flat-footed and testify about what they had seen God do. And the world still needs women who are not ashamed to say, I know the Lord will make a way. I've seen God answer prayers. I've seen God heal bodies. I've seen God open doors that were closed in our face. He's blessed us over and over and over again. And he's good all the time.
All right now.
And you're not afraid to open up your mouth and tell God thank you for the midwife. Because our narrative is different. Because somebody told Pharaoh no, so that Moses could tell God yes.
All right.
The grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of our God shall stand forever.
All right.
Thank God for midwives. Thank God for the midwives that are still in our school systems today. Our teachers and our counselors that take care of our children day after day. I thank God for those who pray for us when we didn't know how to pray for ourselves. Especially those women that's gone on before. Thank God for women who have taken children in and raised them and they were not their children. Used to be a time it wasn't that you had to adopt them or foster care. You would see a child that was in need at the church and take them home and take care of them and raise them and clothe them and feed. Midwives We need to remember, if it had not been for two women, Shipha and Pure, our world would be in a different place even on today.
Amen.
So this is my Women's History Month sermon. One that I'm going to tell you the truth, I haven't heard a lot preached about Shipha and Pure. I'm sure some others might have. But it is a very important story in the book of Exodus in our Bible. And do you know that even on today, there are more women that are pregnant are getting back to having midwives instead of going to the hospital to give birth to their children? You have women that are going out and getting certified to be midwives. To bring children into the world. But it's all of our responsibility to bring life into this dying world that we have. To look at our community and see what's in need and not only pray about it, but try to do something about it. When I rolled up this morning, it took everything in me to not get my gloves out of my back of my car and pick up all that trash on the side of this fence area. You know, because it looks really bad. And I had to go to City Hall the other day, and the man had to pull this property up. And when he did, even when he pulled up the property over overhead satellite thing, you could see all the trash on the back side of the church. Right there. It was there. I mean, well, then I could say and tell the man, it's always there. You know? We just got to keep praying. We just got to keep praying. It looks bad, but I know it's not going to stay that way. Because sooner or later, something's going to break.
Amen.
I don't know what it's going to be. Hopefully it won't be me. But something. Because you know I'll go around there and just go off. And he be trying to pull me back. But something got to be. It don't make no sense. People used to take care of church property.
Yeah.
If they didn't do anything, if they were homeless, even if they were homeless, they looked out for the church property. They would come and tell you who was messing around, you know, so and so. Now,
not no more.
These people don't care nothing about nothing.
Right on the steps and everything.
They're breaking, they just don't care. And that's what our world has come to. But we gotta pray. We gotta pray. You know, we can't go vengeance is mine, says the Lord. We gotta pray. And let God make the changes. Yes. But we still got to be like the midwives. We got to go out and do our part in our communities and in our cities and in our states. Amen. And it starts with knowing just who Jesus is. So before you can do anything, you got to fear the Lord. Before you can fear the Lord, you got to know the Lord. Yes. Because if you don't know the Lord, you won't never fear him. You just think you're going on what Mama said or what Mama said. But you got to know him for yourself. People are leaving here every day. Yes. Every day. People you know, people I know, people we went to school with, and we think that we're not that old when we get there. We know old people now. And people are leaving. And even young people. I think Miss Marcus told me she had a niece had a stroke, 44 years old. 44. Had a stroke. You used to not hear about that. You used to have to be over 80 to have strokes. Different world. You got to know Jesus for yourself. You got to accept him as your personal Savior. And you never ought to hear a word from him or come to a church and not ask that everybody that's in front of you or under the sound of your voice know Jesus for yourself. Because if you don't want to leave here today not knowing. Because as you can see, the things that we're going through in this world right now, tomorrow is not promised. This afternoon is not promised. We might not even make it out this door. It's not promised. So it behooves us to be serious about the Lord. Believing he is our Savior. And all we have to do is ask and trust. So if you do not know him, I invite you to the altar.